Well, we are on our way here to my next Smokies adventure. This time we are on the Foothills Parkway. This is a much more scenic route. It is quite pretty. For those of you who have watched my channel before, you will doubtless recognize the entrance here.
Back in the good old Smoky Mountains again. Now that I've parked my car at the end of the hike in the Cosby campground, my dad has given me a ride down to the beginning of the hike in the southeast corner of the Smokies. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I am working on hiking all the trails in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I wanted to knock out a fairly large section that I knew I wouldn't have time for once the school year started. So I decided on another 2-night, 3-day, 40-mile hike whose cumulative elevation gain, unfortunately, landed around the 11,300 foot mark. On this trip, I started my hike from Straight Fork Road. I traveled 1.8 miles up Hyatt Ridge Trail. At the Hyatt Ridge-Enloe Creek junction, I went out and then back on the 1.7 mile spur of Hyatt Ridge Trail. I continued heading 3.5 miles west on Enloe Creek Trail, then 3.9 miles north on Hughes Ridge Trail to reach Peck's Shelter. On day 2, I continued 3/4 of a mile to reach the AT. I traveled 5.1 miles northeast on the AT. Turning onto the 5.7 mile section of Balsam Mountain Trail, I hiked out and back, returning to the Tricorner Shelter. On day 3, I continued 3.7 miles northeast on the AT. I did a quick out and back on the 0.7 mile section of Snake Den Ridge. Then I continued 4.5 miles north on the AT. Finally, I turned west on Low Gap Trail, traveling 2.9 miles to reach my car in the Cosby campground. Sadly, I noticed an increased frequency in the number of apologies I'm having to make for some of my malfunctioning equipment. In this case, my old phone failed to record any sound for several video segments, which is why you'll see me doing some additional voiceovers. I appreciate your patience as I work on this particular challenge. At this point, I'm mentioning that I'm Graybeard for the Sylvan Reflections channel, and I'm so very pleased to be able to share with you some of the beautiful scenery and experiences of this backpacking trip. And since I'm carrying about 37 pounds for a cumulative elevation gain of over 11,000 feet for 40 miles, this hike is going to push me a bit. I'm on Straight Fork Road, and I'm taking note from the Hyatt Ridge Trail sign that I've got 1.9 miles in which to gain just over 1,500 feet to reach the ridge. This is a Turk's Cap lily, which I believe is an introduced invasive plant. Still, with those striking brown polka dot orange-colored petals and long stamens with their contrasting burnt red anthers, it is a beautiful flower. This marginal wood fern has a somewhat delicate appearance and really brightens the forest floor with a delightful light green wash of color. Hooray! The phone finally started recording sound with the video again. Kinds of beautiful flowers that have bloomed and are now the fruit. Lots of cool stuff here. Well, as you can see, we are getting somewhere around the halfway point up the hill here to the ridge. This is the second or third stream that we've had to cross. And then on with some more of the rocky trail. There we go. You can see that we do have one. Dusky, but left it on today maybe. I'll have to look them up later and see. But very cool. The Crimson Bee Balm. As you can see,
This one is this one is actually really quite pretty. But almost it makes me think wild hydrangea, so we'll get better looks at that later. But just interesting, the blossoms. I think I have the Virginia spiderwort. Seems a bit overexposed, but that's all right. Always pretty to see that. We have some of the meadow rue. Some other ones here, but we'll get to those shortly. As you can see, the chance of rain turned into a gully washer for the past 15 minutes. Turned the trail into a stream. And we are about to reach our intersection. So let's risk the phone/camera getting wet for a little bit. Let's see here. Sure enough, Enloe Creek, going that way. Now here's the Hyatt Ridge coming off, heading on up along this ridge. We're going to take that for a bit to catch the section I've not done yet, and then come right back and continue on Enloe Creek. Well, it's been a good while since we reached the Hyatt Ridge-Enloe Creek Trail intersection, and I turned on to the right to continue on the Hyatt Ridge on the ridge. Now that we've gone down there and now we're heading back, now I've walked on the section that I didn't catch earlier. Now I've got that. We are heading back and almost back to the intersection of Enloe Creek, Hyatt Ridge. And just a little bit to go, and we'll be ready to start on Enloe. Rain is starting to let up a little bit, so I'm hoping it'll be done in a bit. Lots of these little guys.
This looks like the vomiting russula or rusula. This common name makes sense because in light of the species or the specific epithet emetica, since the word emetic refers to something that causes vomiting.
With all this rain and moisture, it's not hard to understand why this is such a mushroom capital.
I think this mushroom is from the Amanita genus, possibly Amanita pseudopenetrans. If anyone has a different ID for this mushroom, please let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate it.
Yep, sure enough, back to the intersection. Okay, let's come here, and we got, look at that, 3.6 to go. And then we start the other trail. Now we are on Enloe Creek. And you'll notice it's getting bright out, the rain's kind of stopped. Water's still flowing in the trail. Still dripping a bit because of all the leaves that have yet to offload their water. But we're just about there, and I'm sorry, but that is really kind of cute. Pretty cute, however you want to call it. It's just a world of mushrooms. Just gorgeous.
Kind of looks like golden trumpet. It does make a bright, beautiful splash of orange against the greens and darker browns.
Oh wow, that is pretty. That is, I believe, the hemlock varnish or conch varnish. I forget the name of it for sure. I'll insert it here. Really beautiful when it's fresh from the rain with a little sun on it. And you can see we've got quite a few others here as well. It's really, really pretty. These are the false Solomon seal. Except for blooms, they now have berries. This because it's later in the season. Oh, look at this. These guys are just, I mean, interesting fruits, yes, but the leaves are so unmistakable. It's kind of interesting at this point on the trail.
you are still pretty high up on Enloe Creek, but you can look down and see the steep grade going way on down. If I'm quiet, my little microphone here, it's kind of, all the water's kind of matted it a little bit. So hopefully you can hear, but you can hear the roar down below. And you can see through the trees here. With the naked eye, it's a little bit easier to see through it to the mountaintops on the other side of the ravine there. Oh boy, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? There we go, just spectacular. That's nice. There's still a few rhododendron in bloom. Hey, look at that. Our first falls as we're coming down Enloe Creek Trail. This is beautiful. It's tiny, yeah, not a big one, but it is so pretty, especially with the flowers kind of garnishing the view on the side. And if we look over here, there's another little falls. Can't see it too well, but it really is pretty to come across these things. What a beautiful canvas our Creator has painted for us. Okay, we have, first of all, about to step over it before I noticed we had, oh, isn't he pretty? Oh, notice that laterally compressed tail. Oh, boy, you can tell he's meant for the water. Very cool. We won't disturb him, but we will back up a little bit and show you this beautiful little waterfall. And it goes further. If you look back up behind, you can see it kind of doing an S shape up above it. It is so pretty. Wow, aren't those pretty? Man, you can really see that brilliant color, red on the yellow. Really gorgeous color, isn't it? We're a good ways down Enloe Creek trail, and either we are going to cross over on that, and the Park Service has really made us a nice footbridge, or that's left over from something else before the park or something. I guess we're going to take a look at that, find out. Yes, you got to love the trail after a rain. It doesn't take far to get to a creek. The trail is the creek. And it turns out we are doubling back over to that bridge. So that is the one we're crossing on.
Later, I heard that, some years back, a hiker had made the regrettable decision to do a deep water crossing during some high water conditions, and that the park constructed this substantial bridge to help ensure the safety of any future crossings.
Okay, this is wood and metal combination. Very, very cool. Now, here's something else that's cool. That is an awesome, beautiful, and that's gorgeous. Makes you want to set everything down, run over there, and do a little swimming. To a really cool area with some nice pools. On we go. Man, I love this bridge. Our first campsite, 47. the bear lines, that is the lines I call them that you haul up your backpack so the bears can't get to them. Wow. Seems like it's awfully close to the bridge, but that's all right. Very, very cool. Campsite 47. This is an awesome little campsite. Look at this. You have this beautiful backdrop, the rock wall here. You got a nice little trail right over there to an overlook. Oh, this we got to see. Just think, you can get your food, come over here. Wow, look at this. This is a great campsite. Man, tell you what, if I were doing a shorter loop and could just camp right here, this would be awesome. That is a great, great campsite. We have some bear lines here, but as you can see, that's awfully close to the bridge. I'd be a little concerned about that being about a bear getting to that. I don't know. Over here is your campfire area with yet another view of the stream over there. You can see through there. This must be from way back. But they got a pole with hooks up there that you could put your pack up on and a lift to lift it up there. I would trust that before I would the hooks over on the other side. Man, that is so cool. This is a great little campsite. So, if you ever have to hike along Enloe Creek and want to camp somewhere in Enloe Creek, 47 is a great site. I love this one. This is great. Meanwhile, I've got to keep going. Ah, look at that. Sadly, this is uphill from here. See, I lost all that altitude that I worked so hard to gain coming up Hyatt Ridge. Now I just got to gain it back in order to get to Hughes. So, oh well, let's continue on.
Since I knew I had some additional concentrated elevation gain to do in a little over a mile from here, I figured this would be a good place to sit down, hydrate, and have lunch. That bore a striking resemblance to a cheesy rice and bean item offered by a certain well-known national food chain. I'm sure it would ring a bell if it were up to me to mention the name. This would be a great little campsite with a few possible caveats. First, if it rains, you want to be careful. It looks like it might puddle a bit. Second, have some insect repellent handy. It wasn't bad at this point, but I would imagine being so close to the river that you might have some more bugs at certain times of the year. Third, I would be inclined to use the older pack hanging pole instead of the traditional bear lines, since the traditional bear lines were hooked to an arm that was attached to the bridge, close enough to it that I would think the bears might be able to reach the packs. So, I could be wrong, but just a thought.
Here we go. We have trillium, I believe, but you can see the flowers long past all the way to where now that you can see the fruit. Really pretty. Ah, look at what we have here. You can see beautiful parallel veined leaves of a Solomon seal. We showed you the fall Solomon seal earlier. This, however, here we go, right next to this. You can see the fruit. I'm sorry, it's not focusing too well. You can see the fruit of the Solomon seal. Ah, look at that. Looks like a cutleaf coneflower, I think. Very, very pretty. Wow. I know there's several falls labeled along Enloe Creek. This one is really pretty. This is the best view you can get through the foliage. But if you go on upstream from it, you see we've got more and more. So all together, that is quite a picture. Wow.
Like the crimson bee balm, the white bergamot has a unique arrangement where the petals look like greater than symbols that radiate all the way around the flower.
That's pretty incredible. Just gorgeous. This is our last crossing before we start going seriously uphill. After this, I won't have streams to get water from until I get to the, well, I'm assuming that the shelter has a water supply. I wasn't able to search that out before I started. I know the second shelter does. So I'm gonna drink up the rest of my ½ liter here, then fill them all up so I have full water. That also means I've got about 8 pounds, 9 pounds, maybe 10. Oh well, it's worth it. The only thing worse than having to carry the weight of water is not having it when you're dying of thirst.
You will notice that I've upped my game and now use a high-tech, 100% recyclable pair of locally made trekking poles. Very local, as they are fallen tree branches that I picked up along the trail and sawed off to the desired height. Rather more bulky and a good bit heavier than a nice pair of proper aluminum or carbon fiber trekking poles that I would love to have, but they are worth their weight in gold for the stability they offer in a place like this with such incredibly slippery footing. Even with a pair of poles, I have to be very cautious.
Well, as you can see, that was and has been the only really significant water crossing that I had to navigate. You might have noticed that I did a little dancing right there at the beginning. The spirit of the moment just got a hold of me. I couldn't help but express. No, I'm kidding. What happened was my USB cord that was attached to my lithium ion fell out and started dangling in the water. So had to switch hands, then reach down there and take it out. So that was the reason for all that.
Yeah, as I'm sure you guessed, I had to cross over ahead of time to set up the camera and then cross back to do it for the video.
Worked out pretty well. Now we have about 4 hours to get 5 miles, 4 or 5, something like that. Forgot to mention, I do have my night light with me. Fresh pair of batteries. I have a second fresh pair of batteries. I have a third fresh pair of batteries from the hike before and forgot was there. So I should have no trouble lighting up the night if I have to do a little night hike. Right now though, I'm going to sit down and just filter a lot of water.
Unfortunately, the phone slipped a bit and most of the filtering ended up outside the frame. But that's okay. I'm sure you already knew that when I squeeze the bag, it filters the water.
I think this is a chanterelle, but not the species that everybody knows about and likes. This is the American bellflower with its elegant blues and long stamens. With only the delicate white flower itself, I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like the black cohosh. You can tell it is an aster from the many radiating petals. Looks like the white wood aster. This really looks to me like the feather from a wild turkey. It is a pretty pattern.
Well, I've been waiting for this for a while. Finally got to the end of the Enloe Creek. And yeah, from that bridge that we crossed, yeah, I mean, you lost all your elevation that you fought so hard to get going up Hyatt Ridge, and you lost it all. Then had to gain it, or at least most of it back. So we have finally come to the end of Enloe, and I will say this, I was pleasantly surprised. The first part of Enloe coming up was a little steep in some parts, but then towards the 1/3 mark, started getting a lot easier. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Just as we get to the end of Enloe Creek, you can see this really nice evergreen, just luscious and dark. Oh, it's beautiful. Just beautiful. We are getting up here in elevation, but as you can see, with great relief, we reach the end of Enloe Creek. All right, and now we just have to go a little bit further here. Yes, Appalachian Trail for 4.7, so 3.8 of that will get us to our PEX shelter. So about an hour and a half to do 3 miles. So if I do about 2 miles an hour, I'll get there pretty close to sundown. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. All right, on we go. The nice thing here is now that I've reached the Appalachian Trail, I'm kind of on the ridge. Yeah, the ridge may undulate a little bit up and down, but not too bad, not too bad. So I might actually have a shot at keeping 2 miles an hour, or close to it.
One of the things I really love is a good serpentine trail. The way the curves of the trail taper off into the distance evokes a sense of subdued excitement as you enter into the mysterious unknown.
With the dark orange veins running along the creamy yellow surface of the petals and those sharp, narrow leaves, this evening primrose is a beautiful flower. Possibly the narrow leaf variety, I think.
Okay. This is something I've been waiting for a very long time in coming. Yeah, Bradley Fork. That's the one going down that direction. Eventually, it will intersect with Chastain Creek, which is where I camped in my winter hike. But sadly for me, still got 2 more miles to go. Shouldn't be too much night hiking. PEX Corner Shelter, so time to get on with it. It is indeed after dark. Sunset about maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes ago. So now I've got my headlamp going. And we're just gonna do the remaining 1.2 miles to get there.
I was really beat after climbing thousands of feet over 12 plus miles. I was so excited to see the shelter earlier than expected because it was closed and had a door that was locked. I was confused. I'll tell you a little more about it later.
It would mean the world to me if you could help me get this channel a little more exposure, to like the video, you know, all that, ring the notification bell, I'll share it. Oh, that'd be wonderful. If you could do that, it'd be great. This is Graybeard for the Sylvan Reflections channel.
I will see you on part 2. If you like this video, please consider clicking the like, subscribe, and notification bell.